This episode is sponsored by Code Crafters. As an engineer myself, I know that the best way to learn how to code is to build something new. But sometimes it's hard to come up with project ideas as well as find a community of folks on the same learning path. That's where Code Crafters comes in. With Code Crafters, you can build something that actually stimulates your mind while strengthening your engineering fundamentals. And you can do so by using your favorite IDE or tools to code and build your own Git, Redis, or HTTP server in the language of your choice. Languages like Rust, C++, or Go. Code Crafters is designed to optimize your learning experience as it's designed for productivity. Sign up today and become a better, more confident programmer. Visit codestory.co/codecrafters. That's CODECRAFTERS to get started and get 40% off your upgrade. Okay guys, I got a serious update for you. You heard me talk about SEMA and the product roadmap radar. I just caught up with Matt, who's the founder there, and he gave me the latest on what they are building. And my mind is blown. The team at SEMA are taking things to the next level. Built around the core of the product roadmap radar, i.e. code and Jira analysis, they are building agent orchestration across the product lifecycle. Picture this. You hook up this system same as before, i.e. integrate your repository and your backlog, Jira today. From that point, SEMA's agent analyzes the codebase and makes suggestions as to what needs to be done next and what could improve, optimize the product. Then, if those tasks are routine, the agent assigns the task to a coding agent, think something like Devin, to complete the minutia, while assigning the human-in-the-loop task to engineers themselves. What you end up with is engineers focusing on building core competency features, while AI handles all the rest. If you're not salivating right now, I don't think you fully understand what this means. But here's what I would suggest. Right now, their product is in a closed beta, and SEMA is looking for folks to sign up for their Product Intelligence Advisory Board. This gives you the opportunity to use the product, give feedback, help shape the future of what's built. Oh, and not to mention additional free usage of the product, potentially through the end of 2026. So, if that fits your workflow and toolset, you need to reach out today. Go to codestory.co/nextlevel, NEXTLEVEL, and reach out to Matt at SEMA to learn more and join the Product Intelligence Advisory Board. Again, that's codestory.co/nextlevel. This episode is sponsored by Postman. Postman is the world's leading API platform, trusted by 98% of the Fortune 500 and over 40 million developers. Tap into APIs from 18,000 plus companies to power agents that make smarter decisions. Learn more at postman.com/podcast/codestory. This message is sponsored by Melee Search. Today, search isn't just a feature, it's a cornerstone. And Melee Search gives your users the experience they need with lightning-fast performance, full-text search, AI usage, and multimodal capabilities. Melee Search delivers relevant results in less than the blink of an eye. Use the promo code CODESTORY at checkout to get 2 months free at meleesearch.com. That's MEILI search.com. This episode is brought to you by Paddle. Don't settle for less when you can have more, MOR, with Paddle, your merchant of record. Eliminate the headaches of payments, grow your revenue everywhere, and focus on what you do best, building your product. Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. This episode is brought to you by PropelOff. People take authentication for granted, but it's more than how customers log into your product. It's how you manage your relationship with your users. The easiest way to make authentication your advantage is to use PropelOff. PropelOff is more than just functional. It's powerful. With tools like Managed UIs, Enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, PropelOff adapts as your product grows. And the best part? When auth is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Save dev time, win over your customers, and propel your business forward with PropelOff. Check them out at propeloff.com. That's PROPELAUTH.com.
We set for ourselves an early target of getting to 10 clients. We said, you know what? We need to see 10 expressions of interest in this business to prove that it's real enough to be worth continuing to invest in. We actually told ourselves we're going to give ourselves between 6 and 8 months to get there. We should be able to do it relatively quickly. And so we were able to hit that mark. And then from there, then it became clear, okay, it's time to start building the team and building the business. So in this case, it may not surprise you to hear that, how did we do that? We ate our own dog food. We hired fractionally. I'm Praveen Ghanta. I am CEO of Fraction and co-founder and CEO of DevHawk.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do next.
Took many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
A company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve more.
Most proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was
Yes, we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind you.
Took it off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want it.
It's not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Labhart, and today how Praveen Ghanta made talent available fractionally that actually executes, leading to the building of your dev team, AIPM. Praveen Ghanta recently turned 47 and started to look at the things he wanted to do but potentially couldn't do in the future. He's married with 3 teenage kids and has been into running for quite some time. So much so that he attempted to run a 5-minute mile and almost made it. Also, he recently signed up for soccer classes after having been beat by some 8th grade kids who helped him realize he needed training in his ball handling skills. In his prior startup, Praveen and his team stumbled upon a new approach to hiring that fueled the building of this startup all the way through exit. After that success, he decided to make this approach available to others and form a business around this very thing, fractional talent for your startup. This is the creation story of Fraction and DevHawk.
At Fraction, our motto, or our original motto, I should say, is that the best talent already has a job, so why not hire them fractionally? Previous startup I had, which was a SaaS startup in the fintech space, specifically serving financial advisors. We were selling risk management software to financial advisors. And I have a background going further back in building software on Wall Street and other stuff like that. So in kind of the finance realm, 15 years ago almost now. And we were bootstrapping. I've always been a bootstrapper. The same is true with Fraction and every venture I've ever been a part of. But when you're a bootstrapper, you have to be lean and economical as you're building a team. So we had started to gain revenue with that business. That business was called Hidden Levers. We started to gain revenue, but not enough to hire a full-time engineer. Because even back then, a full-time senior engineer was going to cost you 6 figures for sure, and more if they were specialized, potentially. So couldn't afford that. So we thought, why not just hire somebody that we know or somebody like half-time on the side? Maybe that'll work. And the secret that we quickly realized was that in exchange for a long-term part-time contract, that thing we now call fractional work, a lot of folks are willing to engage, first of all, over the long term, and second of all, maybe even discount relative to what their typical hourly rate is, because they don't have to find another contract or find another gig, that sort of thing. And so they'll reward you for being loyal to them. So that worked in building that company. That first engineer that we hired in that way stayed with us for 9 years. Over time, as we grew Hidden Levers, 40% of our engineering team was fractional. Fast forward to 2021, we get to our exit, and actually part of the team that was fractional, they actually stayed on through the exit. So it proved to us that, hey, this doesn't even negatively impact startups that are going to sell. Like, it actually worked from top to bottom. So just had a great experience overall with us using that approach on our own. And that naturally led me to think, after selling that company, I'm like, this fractional angle, it worked really well for us. Is that something that we could bring to other companies? And so that was the genesis, starting in 2022, of Fraction, the company. Started from there, first on the engineering side, in helping startups and small growing companies engage with senior US-based engineers on a fractional basis, quarter time or half time. So think 10 to 20 hours a week. And then we were off to the races. So that was in 2022. And we're 3 years in now, have about 100 folks working through the model and around a bit over 500 folks in our talent pool. So we've grown that as well over time. It hasn't all been like straight line up. Certainly there have been challenges as we've seen the hiring market soften a bit. But on the other hand, as we've seen that to some startups and folks run into challenges, we've seen that the fractional approach can be helpful to them as well, because maybe they can't afford that full-time hire, or maybe they just need a little bit of additional help and don't need to make the full-time position.
I'm curious about what you would consider, the MVP for Fraction, right? So that first version of what you decided to go out and offer to other folks that you had made successful with Hidden Levers. I'm curious about what you would call the MVP. It's that first version of Fraction that you created. How long did it take you to spin it up? If there were any interesting tools or frameworks you're using to bring it to life?
So if I set the time frame as 2022, mid-2022, and we're going to market now, of course, when you're a repeat founder, you've got a little bit of a cheat code. That only takes you so far, though. So the first couple of, clients that we had were maybe through our network and references. And so maybe we didn't have a whole lot of formal infrastructure in place yet. But pretty quickly, we realized, of course, you need to have a website and all of that. But we realized that when you're trying to build a marketplace, you need to have that marketplace presence and a place for potential buyers to go and see who the talent is and what you've got available. And then from a talent perspective, that credibility of having a talent marketplace causes them to be more likely to apply to further grow your talent pool. And looking at it and thinking again from a bootstrapper's perspective, how can we achieve this efficiently? So if I were to do it today, of course, there's so many vibe coding platforms. I'd probably do it on Replit, but one of those would probably be a very quick and efficient way to deliver. But we actually found an approach that was, I guess I would argue, a little less flexible, but frankly, as fast or faster to market. And that was using a low-code platform, or really a no-code platform called Softer. And so we use this platform called Softer, softer.io, I think it is. And we're able to spin up a marketplace. Actually, they had a marketplace template. And so we were able to spin up using that marketplace template basically in a couple of days, maybe a week at most, but I really think it was less than a week, and actually have a working marketplace where we could showcase all of our talent and have folks shop for talent if they signed into it from our website.
Tell me about a decision or trade-off you had to make in launching that first version, and I hear the choice to use the template there, the marketplace template. I'm curious if there are any other decisions or trade-offs you had to make that were difficult and how you coped with them.
Services businesses and SaaS businesses or software business or product businesses, honestly, looking at it from the outside, I had SaaS experience and software product experience through multiple different startups previously. I had never actually operated truly on the services side, not at any scale. And so there's a huge difference between having one client, which is effectively what you have whenever you've got a full-time job, or maybe having a handful of clients, which say a lot of freelancers might, and then trying to grow a roster of clients, and how do you actually manage that? So that's something that I would say that I was less than, or even our team, we were less than fully prepared for in terms of, so we didn't have any infrastructure for that. We did find early on in building our first version of the MVP on a no-code platform, there's probably the typical trade-off that you would see with most of those platforms is that the easier to use that they are, the easier an approach that it is, that likely means that there's a lack of flexibility associated with that. I think probably founders looking at the problem or starting today have a little bit less of that problem in the sense that vibe coding is taking you directly toward actual code. Of course, dependent on your ability to keep running with that ball. And when the agents can't take you any further, there's times you fix it yourself. But yeah, that was a challenge for us, was that being on a no-code platform, okay, there's only so much we can do here. And when do you make that decision to bite the bullet and say, rewrite it for real? How far along do you have to get before you take that next growth step?
This episode is brought to you by Vention, your partner in building smarter with AI. When you're moving fast, AI can be your biggest growth driver or a major time sink. That's why Vention created expert-led AI workshops, tailored sessions that help startups test ideas quickly, validate product fit, and avoid expensive detours. You'll walk away with a clear, practical roadmap built by senior engineers and an in-house CTO who've delivered over 150 AI projects across 30-plus industries, giving you not just technical direction, but the engineering peace of mind that every decision is built to last. Go to VentionTeams.com or book your AI workshop now at VentionTeams.com/CodeStory and go from idea to impact faster. That's VentionTeams.com/CodeStory. This episode is sponsored by Fullscale. Let me guess, your team's shipping sprint velocity looks good, but you're still asking yourself, is anyone actually thinking about the why? Matt Watson's been there. He's the founder behind Vin Solutions and Stackify and now runs Fullscale with a 300-plus person dev team. And after 2 decades in the trenches, he's seen the same pattern over and over. Smart developers stuck in systems that reward ticket-taking instead of real thinking. That's why he wrote Product Driven, a playbook for tech leaders who are done babysitting developers and ready to build teams that own the outcome. If you're tired of translating every feature, doing all the thinking, or wondering why your smart team is still stuck, this is the fix. Go to productdriven.com/CodeStory to grab the book and get the bonus toolkit to help your team shift from output to outcomes, like 12 bold ways to get your retros out of robot mode. Again, that's productdriven.com/CodeStory. Okay, guys, I got a serious update for you. You heard me talk about SEMA and the product roadmap radar. I just caught up with Matt, who's the founder there, and he gave me the latest on what they are building. And my mind is blown. The team at SEMA are taking things to the next level. Built around the core of the product roadmap radar, i.e. code and Jira analysis, they are building agent orchestration across the product lifecycle. Picture this. You hook up this system same as before, i.e. integrate your repository and your backlog, Jira today. From that point, SEMA's agent analyzes the codebase and makes suggestions as to what needs to be done next and what could improve, optimize the product. Then, if those tasks are routine, the agent assigns the task to a coding agent, think something like Devin, to complete the minutia, while assigning the human-in-the-loop task to engineers themselves. What you end up with is engineers focusing on building core competency features, while AI handles all the rest. If you're not salivating right now, I don't think you fully understand what this means. But here's what I would suggest. Right now, their product is in a closed beta, and SEMA is looking for folks to sign up for their Product Intelligence Advisory Board. This gives you the opportunity to use the product, give feedback, help shape the future of what's built. Oh, and not to mention additional free usage of the product potentially through the end of 2026. So, if that fits your workflow and toolset, you need to reach out today. Go to codestory.co/nextlevel, NEXTLEVEL, and reach out to Matt at SEMA to learn more and join the Product Intelligence Advisory Board. Again, that's codestory.co/nextlevel. This episode is brought to you by Paddle. As a startup, you face unique challenges to stay competitive. You and your team need to stay focused on your product, not your payments. You need to do more, MOR, and DIY less. With Paddle. Paddle is your merchant of record, becoming the seller of record for your SaaS transactions, enabling your team to focus on what's important, your product. Paddle handles all payment management across multiple gateways and methods, taking ownership of tax liability while remaining compliant with regulations across all markets. The platform handles all aspects of SaaS billing models, upgrades, add-on, trials, and more. Let's look at the results. MOR revenue optimization is built into Paddle and accounts for up to 16% higher conversion rates, reduced payment failures, localized pricing, and churn prevention, recovering 40% of cancellations. Their developer-friendly tools are API first with comprehensive documentation, removing the burden from your engineers. With Paddle as your merchant of record, you'll generate more revenue, find and keep more customers, grow faster, and stay compliant everywhere. So what are you waiting for? Get more revenue with less hassle at paddle.com. Okay, let's move forward then. I'm curious about, you've got the first version of Fraction. How did you mature it and progress it from that point? And I think to wrap in a box a little bit, and I know this is services versus software at this point, but how did you build your quote unquote roadmap, right? How did you better ask, how did you go about deciding that, okay, this is the next most important thing to address or to create with Fraction?
Well, I think that with many businesses, or ideally, a lot of that is client driven. And in our case, or in this case, it was no different. You'll have some opening hypotheses whenever you're starting some business because you have zero customers at the beginning. And so you got to come to market with some sort of vision. So we had an initial vision, I would say, of what kinds of skill sets we thought the market would demand. Just to give you a concrete example, when we used fractional talent at my prior startup, it was actually an integration engineer. That was the first really successful use of fractional talent for us, because when you're connecting systems from the outside, you can rely on the API specs on both sides, and you don't necessarily need to know all of the guts of either system. You're doing a lot of plumbing work and a lot of transformation and getting data from point A to point B. And so we're like, okay, that's the kind of thing that we can hand off, and a fractional engineer can really run with that and be responsible for it. And that was successful for us. And so we thought, okay, that's something that we should bring to market. Similarly, we thought that DevOps, because particularly smaller organizations, they don't necessarily have as large of a DevOps need. And so maybe that could be fractional. QA automation. So just to give you a sense of a handful of roles that we thought would be, let's say, big sellers. And so anytime if you're building a marketplace, you've got to have inventory. Unlike in software or SaaS, where your inventory is more or less infinite, you can just sell another seat or sign some more folks up and they can just start using it. Maybe you got to scale a little bit, but you don't have any constraint there. Here, if there's no fractional talent, then we've got nothing to sell. So that actually meant spinning up our interview capacity, and I was doing all of the interviews, deciding in advance before we had demand, okay, what kinds of talent are we going to onboard? That was our theory of the case, was that those were the kinds of roles we'd need. And then you go to market and real quick client requests kick in and you're like, okay, we might have misjudged that. So then you end up having to respond to what folks are asking for. And it turned out that the market, particularly startups and smaller companies, full stack engineering help most often is what they need, because they just don't have they don't have a large team to begin with. So everybody's got to be a little bit more versatile. And so that's something that we found. And it was also just learning about, again, relative to our own prior expectations about what might be roles, not roles, but rather tech stacks that would be in demand. Okay, what's actually in demand? And that's changed over time, over the last couple of years as well. We found when we started that React was probably 2/3 of the market in terms of on the front end side. And let's say Node and just a full stack JavaScript or TypeScript that was number one overall, but slightly more dominant than it is today, because then the ChatGPT moment happens in late 2022 or end of 22. Very rapidly, the market starts to pivot, or interest starts to explode in Python, just so that everybody can access it. First it was LangChain. There's so many Python frameworks. Now there are frameworks in almost every language, but Python still tends to have a lead when it comes to doing data science and just touching LLMs and all of that. Or at least there's that perception. And so we saw this explosion in demand there, such that about 50% of the backend work we see is in Python. And then because of LLMs being able to write code, and because they can write React code really well, we've seen the dominance of React on the front end rise from that reasonably high level of, say, 2/3 to over 90%. It's almost like React and nothing else. And just occasionally we'll hear about some other different framework. It's really been amazing to see how the usage of AI in software development has narrowed the number of stacks that folks are considering.
So, throughout that description, I heard you talking about and there's an interesting kind of two-way approach to building your team, right? You've got to build your team of the people that are operationally building and supporting Fraction, but also the talent that you're bringing in Fraction. So I'm curious about how you went about that, and what you look for in those people to indicate that they're the winning horses to join you.
As a starting point, we, of course, would be myself and my co-founders. And so with Fraction, and actually if I rewind to very early in my career, I did try one startup in particular I worked on. This was many years ago, 20 years ago. in the travel, actually it was in the travel expense management space, but I tried it as a solo founder. And I know that you'll hear about folks who've had success as solo founders. I did not. I found that I wasn't able to jump back and forth or handle both the business and the technical side. That context switching was just a lot to be able to take on solo and achieve anything. So what I resolved after that was that I would try to find co-founders that would complement me. And with Hidden Levers, where I grew the business and had an exit, I had a business co-founder who complemented me with sales skills and some of those kind of business development skills, whereas I was CTO. And then I was eventually CEO, and we brought in a CTO, but I didn't have to carry all of the water on the other side of the business. Similarly with Fraction, I was able to go back to some of the folks that I had worked with at Hidden Levers and bring some of them in. Alicia and Jeff are my two co-founders at Fraction, and collectively we're able to bring a whole skill set together in terms of the operational side of the house and actually delivering for clients, also the sales side of the house, and then finally technical and executive leadership, all of it. So in this case, two co-founders, so there's three of us that make that we. So that made it a lot easier. So now in terms of hiring on day one or building a team on day one, it allowed us to probably defer a little bit, because when you have a team of three, you can really cover a lot of ground. But eventually, as the business started to grow, we set for ourselves an early target of getting to 10 clients. We said, you know what, we need to see 10 expressions of interest in this business to prove that it's real enough to be worth continuing to invest in. And so that's what we set that mark, and we actually told ourselves we're going to give ourselves between 6 and 8 months to get there. We should be able to do it relatively quickly. And if we can't, then we need to evaluate whether or not we're attacking the market correctly. And so we were able to hit that mark. And then from there, then it became clear, okay, it's time to start building the team and building the business. So in this case, it may not surprise you to hear that, how did we do that? We ate our own dog food. We hired fractionally. And so even today, about 50% of Fraction's team is fractional. So that obviously doesn't mean everybody. We've got about 9 folks full-time, and then roughly that same number that are fractional. We find that that's cost-effective and enables us to tap into, we're doing all of this kind of hiring and vetting for our talent pool. So let's take advantage of the fact that we've got a lot of talent available to us and pull folks from there to meet the needs that we have, which internally, we have a certain number of project managers that we need to help manage all of the client relationships that we've got going. And then these days, we also have an internal tech team as we're building more and more technology that to help drive the next phase of growth.
This episode is sponsored by Melee Search. In today's digital landscape, search isn't just a feature, it's a cornerstone. And you need a user experience that drives customer satisfaction. You need Melee Search. Melee Search is lightning fast performance, returning answers in less than 50 milliseconds. Yeah, you heard that right. Faster than the blink of an eye. The open source AI search engine is plug and play, so you can get up and running in minutes with smart presets, allowing you to start searching through your data with zero configuration. Melee Search utilizes advanced full-text search and AI, ensuring your results are ultra-relevant with semantic depth. It's multimodal, supporting images, videos, and audio, along with being federated, i.e. searching across multiple data sources. And it's developer-friendly. Whether you're building a content-rich website or enterprise application, Melee Search delivers the experience your users expect and deserve. For a limited time, CodeStory users can get 2 months free. Use the promo code CODESTORY, all one word, at checkout. Just go to meleesearch.com and get started today. That's MEILI search.com. This episode is brought to you by PropelOff. People take authentication for granted, but it's more than how customers log into your product. It's how you manage your relationship with your users. The easiest way to make authentication your advantage is to use PropelOff. PropelOff is more than just functional. It's powerful. With tools like managed UIs, enterprise SSO, robust user management features, and actionable insights, PropelOff adapts as your product grows. And the best part? When off is effortless, your team can focus on scaling, not troubleshooting. That means more releases, happier customers, and more growth for your business. Save dev time, win over your customers, and propel your business forward with PropelAuth. Check them out at propelauth.com. That's PROPELAUTH.com. I'm curious about scalability, or where scalability has, reared its ugly head, right? Typically in a product or a SaaS product, we talk about scalability from a technology standpoint. From the services side, you're talking about people. Has there been interesting areas where you've had to fight scalability as you've grown?
Yes, and definitely in different ways than with tech, because you're absolutely right, Noah. Like with technology, of course, it's scalability in terms of maybe that's cloud infrastructure setup, maybe that's optimization, but they're technical problems, and you deal with them in that way. In a services business, one example of that scaling would be our own internal scale. And some of that is the need for growth in our delivery team, so our project management layer, and making sure that we are helping clients and helping our own fractional talent to succeed. One of the things that we've started to do more recently, and I would say that it's an open experiment because different types of roles bring different strengths to the table. But over time, we've experimented with having more product management-oriented folks in that sort of PM role, more project management-oriented folks in that PM role. And now we're even experimenting with engineering managers, just trying to see how different folks, they bring, again, different strengths to the table. For instance, if it's an engineering manager that is in that role of being the key contact person for a client. Now, the fractional talent is engaged with the client and they're working, but you want to have that key person who is a contact and who also, well, if they're an engineering manager, they can get more into the weeds with the engineer on the details of whatever the task they may be working on is, or just help them rubber duck and think things through. So there are advantages to that approach. But say if instead you have a product manager in that role, maybe they can bring the advantages of helping to better define tasks, or if there's work that's not well defined, maybe they're breaking out Lovable or some other tool and helping actually ideate on behalf of the client and the talent what it is that they're really trying to build. So different kinds of folks can bring different skills to the table. And so we're constantly experimenting with what works best there. To answer your question about scale, different people can help. And one of the things that we realized as we were scaling the organization and trying to scale further is, wow, if we get to 400, 500, I don't know, if we are so lucky as to get to 1,000 folks working, does that mean that our internal team has to be dozens and dozens of essentially those client relationship management folks? And then how many managers of them do we need? And how deep does that hierarchy of humans become? So it becomes like a true multi-level human problem. That's when we started to realize that, you know what, we need to invest in technology that can leverage all of what's new today with LLMs and with AI and help us to do this job. And so that was a genesis for some of the new work that we're doing now, and the product that we now call DevHawk, which really started as an internal product to enable us at Fraction to manage, as we got past 50 clients and beyond, just to be able to manage all of those relationships and make sure the balls weren't getting dropped. So maybe a developer with, client number 14 is stalled and doesn't seem to be making any progress for a whole week. Okay, maybe there's been, and this is a real life example of stuff that happens, somebody brings up on a Friday that, oh, by the way, I'm going to be on vacation next week. That's the sort of thing that you'd love to get better notice about, but hey, that's a human issue. And you'll have all kinds of things like this come up. In the ideal world, we look to the technology in DevHawk to be monitoring progress on the project management systems of each and every client, on the GitHub or the source control of each and every client, on their Slack and Teams to see if engineers are being communicative. So bringing all those signals back and then helping our team by just doing the real low-level work, like the pinging folks to make sure to see what's going on and bringing to attention problem areas before they really fester and a client becomes upset about it. So that's where we're trying to actually bring technology back into play to help us as we scale.
So as you step out on the balcony, you look across all that you've built thus far with Fraction in particular. What are you most proud of?
It will come as no surprise to your listeners or to anybody who's involved with tech, the idea that it hasn't been, let's say, a great job market. in technology. Certainly not. I guess we had a high point in the job market. The tech job market and engineering job market was great, say, in 21, 22, 3, 4, 5 years ago. Very strong. And if you look at the data, or if you ask anybody, everybody knows that it's been sliding since then. It turns out that we founded Fraction very close to the peak in the US software engineering job market. And so, hey, pat on the back for excellent timing, right? So we got that about as wrong as we could have in terms of picking an entry point. On the flip side, and as I tell the team, I'm like, guys, like, we've managed to grow this business and grow profitably, even as the number of job listings in the software engineering space in the United States has fallen by 70% since its peak in 2022. And the number of job listings is still 35% below where it was right before the pandemic. So let's say February 1st of 2020, before the world went nuts and all, we are 35% below that point in time, which is now over 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago. With all that context, I think that it's been tremendous traction, and it's proof that, hey, there's a real market for fractional talent that we're able to help meet. And then that's been nice growth against the headwind. And now, and of course, new headwinds have emerged in terms of everyone's not sure how exactly does AI impact the industry. You hear everything from, we have the Anthropic CEO saying that AI is going to write 90% of all code. Of course, it's in his best interest to make big predictions like that. And he made that prediction a while back. And he said, in 6 months, this will be true. And it's been like a year. And obviously, it's not true yet. But we do see the impact. And we do see that models are getting better. And we see that developers need to use these tools and leverage them. And so that's obviously going to continue to change the market as well. So given all of those kind of the degree of change in the tech industry, I've been really proud that we've just been able to swim upstream. That sounds more real. And make it to be able to grow and to be able to grow profitably, and then to be able to invest in some of these new initiatives as we go.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
In this kind of role, or in the world we're in now, which is, of course, a very service-oriented, we have, as we're dealing with clients every day and jumping between, there's a lot of context switching involved because we're jumping between so many different clients. And so I'll tell the story, and then we can get into like, how do we deal with it? How do we improve? But the funny story, or one funny story anyway, is we use Asana as background for our internal project management system. There's a lot of great ones out there, but that's where we ended up. At that time, there was a decision that was made to share like our project boards with clients in order to provide visibility. And perfectly good idea. You want to provide visibility if you're tracking clients' progress on a certain project and all the tasks that go into it. So I'm not sure if I was unaware of that or just moving too fast or just being clueless, but I wrote a particularly pointed comment about a client and how to interact with that client right in the shared Asana board. And so that's where it gets funny. I think I wrote something like, under no circumstances can we allow so-and-so to do a demo on their own. It was something that came off really poor. And what I really meant was that they needed a lot more context because the software wasn't ready. And we needed to have an engineer, have somebody from our team there when they were going to present to their client. But the way it read, because I was just shooting something off real quick, it read really poorly. And so we immediately, it's funny, we were literally on our kind of daily call where we're going through all this stuff. And I think I hit save. And then still on the call, I get an email. And I'm like, wait, what's going on here? What is it? And I realized, oh, holy crap, this thing is public, or this thing is shared with them and they can see it. A total egg on my face. And of course, lots of apologies involved there. But as a team, we had to learn to, unlike when we were running just a pure SaaS product where your development process is mostly internal. And obviously, there's lots of folks who go on LinkedIn and other places and they build in public. But even when you're building in public, that's very different than like literally sharing your project board. Maybe some companies do that, but by and large, this is really when you're supporting, first it's a handful, then it's 10, then it's 50, then it's more clients. You've got to have more process and more structure there and kind of layers to that structure such that you don't make silly mistakes like the one that we did. So onward, say fast forward to today and some of how we manage that, we realized that Well, having Slack channels with every one of our clients is super important. But it's also important because there are certain conversations you need to have internally. So for every client, we have an internal channel and an external channel for the communications with respect to that deal and everything that's going on. Just to give you a sense, so I don't commit the blooper that we did before. But yeah, just putting the right infrastructure in place around that kind of client communication when there's this many clients, it just becomes a whole other ballgame.
Let's move forward then. So I'm curious what the future looks like for Fraction, for, what you're offering, for the internal products you're building, all those sorts of things. Tell me what the future looks like.
Yeah, so the future at Fraction, in no small part, our new product, DevHawk, at devhawk.ai, is a big part of that. And so we built DevHawk to address our own needs and concerns. And as I've said, managing many different client teams and large numbers of developers. Many, I would say, in fact, most of the developers that we work with don't need a lot of check-ins or intervention. They're just chugging away and getting the work done. But if you're working with 100 folks, you have an inverse 80-20 rule or something where there's, at any given point in time, there's going to be some percentage that are having some kind of need, whether that's they're blocked, whether that's that they are actually just MIA, or as it happens, folks change jobs, change roles, life happens to people, all of the reasons that, or all the things you have to stay on top of. And so we realized, hey, we need to build software to help us manage this problem at scale. So that was the genesis of DevHawk. And what our tagline is there is manage your dev team without the hand-holding or without the babysitting. And I know we have seen some of that pain ourselves, enough of it to know that it's real. And the early feedback we've gotten from a lot of clients is just the same. In the remote world, where so many folks are working remotely in the software industry today, management wants to have some idea that work is getting done, that folks are actually staying on top of it. And from a talent perspective, folks are like, hey, I'm an adult. I don't need you watching me every second of the day. And so how do you bring that together? Because we've seen in the industry, we've seen all sorts of time tracking tools and even screen tracking tools and all of this kind of stuff. And that feels really over the top. But the flip side is, if performance is really what it's about, then why don't we track actual metrics of performance? Why don't we take it a step further? Why don't we track actual metrics of performance that are really indicative that a person's doing a good job? And then why don't we also bring an agent into play? Because now, hey, we're in the AI era. And if there are issues, have some of the early conversations and some of that potentially automated so that a project manager or an engineering manager, whoever's in that role, that doesn't become their whole day chasing after folks where they see that there may be issues. And so that's what we set about building, and have made enough progress that we've got an early beta going. And it's been interesting to see, and just even to hear the feedback from early beta, both prospects and clients, that idea resonates for them. And so we're hopeful that we're able to use DevHawk to both improve and grow the Fraction business, because we're using it to manage ourselves. And then also, to the extent that there's larger engineering teams out there, or other teams that could make use of it, then that becomes a SaaS product in its own right.
Praveen, let's switch to you. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to, and why.
Some of it comes from, and so you'll probably hear me make more finance references here actually than tech references. In the finance world, probably the best known name that people, almost anybody knows who you're talking about, would be Warren Buffett. And actually, I got the opportunity to go to the annual kind of Berkshire Hathaway summit that they do every year. This was maybe 3 years ago, which was pretty cool because it was the last year that Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger were both there. Sadly, it was the year after that Charlie Munger passed. And so got to see them both in action together. A couple of cool things that came out of that. One, both of them are working in their 90s. Actually, Munger was 99, and Buffett, I guess he's maybe 94, maybe he's 95 now, but he's both well into their 90s and still going strong, still actually making an impact on their business. So I don't know what you call that if not work ethic. That's been something that has always been important to me has been trying to lead by example in terms of being someone who's hands-on, so not like a leader that is just creating tasks or assigning work, but actually get in the weeds and show that you're still in touch with the work itself. I think it resonates for people when you do that. And so to the extent that those guys throughout their lives have done the same and also done it with a clear kind of, I think that they project a both extraordinary degree of competence, but also ethical and moral compass about how they run their businesses is really cool. And so that's one poll. Another poll that I will throw out there that is someone he's a volatile figure. He's currently richest man on earth, but whatever you think of him, Elon has certainly shaped and changed the world around us. And I think he's done it in unpopular ways, but he's proven that, again, rolling your sleeves up and doing an incredible amount yourself. There's a crazy story of after he bought Twitter, how he, his brother, and just a handful of folks just took it upon themselves to move out one of Twitter's data centers and shut it down because it was essentially a cost-cutting measure that they realized that they didn't need it. And they were just like, screw this, we're just going to do it ourselves. And they literally had the 18-wheelers pull up and they started unracking servers and just doing the thing. That's like crazy extreme. Everything that Elon does is a crazy extreme. So I doubt that I will ever be to that level. And I'm not even sure I want to be. But it does show that level of intensity. And again, whatever you think of the guy, he's putting it all out there. And I think that there's something to be learned from that.
Okay, Praveen, last question. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit several times?
Yeah, actually, what I would say is that I would tell the person, good on you for wanting to show and share, because so many entrepreneurs, I feel like I still see this, even as startup culture has grown and so there's more kind of knowledge out there, there's still a tendency, maybe it's because we all have this tendency, unless we learn otherwise, but there's this tendency to think that, oh, my idea is special. And so a lot of folks will fall into wanting to be a little bit secretive about it. I've even met folks from big companies, think Google, Meta, these kind of Mag 7 folks who are incredible technical talents, but their notion is, oh yeah, my idea has to be in stealth because it's so important. And so firstly, I would commend the person. I was like, yeah, good on you for sharing and would love to see what you're working on. But I would encourage that entrepreneur or anyone who's jumping in and they think they have the next big thing idea. Now, it's a little different if it's B2C. Depends on what it is. There's a narrow slice of B2C kind of work where maybe this advice isn't relevant. But for the vast majority of businesses, including B2C, I would say get someone to pay for it. Even if they're paying a very small amount, get someone to pay for it because you're going to get this random advice from me, the person sitting next to you on the plane. You're going to get random kind of feedback from somebody else. But feedback from people who pay even a very small amount of money is worth so much more than the random advice because we have no skin in the game. And whether it's $10 or $30 or whatever price point, a very low price point, initial price point makes sense. And again, it's going to depend on the industry. Hey, if it's B2C, maybe it's just $1. But that makes a world of difference in terms of then the feedback the person is giving you is actually tied to something. And the chance that it's meaningful feedback is that much stronger.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, Praveen, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling the creation story of Fraction and DevHawk.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the time.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.